nature.
We ain't got money for old stuff.
Limitations on the mission that it can be paid for within existing budget appropriations because there are funds that exist for that purpose.
You know, that's
Commander-in-Chief, I face no greater decision.
In his weekly video address, President Obama reminded his global allies they need to pay their part for the Libya operation, too.
This is how the international community should work.
have gold?
More nations, not just the United States, bearing the responsibility and cost of upholding peace and security.
President Obama says the U.S. contribution in Libya will be limited to days, not weeks. Critics argue that timeline is unrealistic, according to conditions laid out in the UN resolution.
The terms of the resolution say explicitly that the Secretary General of the UN should report back to the Security Council within 7 days and every month thereafter. So it assumes that it's going to go on at least for months.
But even a limited operation is still expensive. And should Libya evolve into a drawn-out conflict, the financial impact could be devastating for an already fiscally strapped United States. Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Wow, like we said, so there is. Now remember, I played last year a piece by Martin Luther King. We talked about actually part of the reason to really to look at these things, that when you do these kinds of excursions like Vietnam he was talking about at the time, you don't have money for social programs.
Right.
So you don't have money. They don't have money for social programs, at least because you're spending all this money on defense, a lot of which is overspending to me. A whole bunch of it is, but no one wants to deal with that because defense is America's #1 business. That and drugs, right?
Yeah, not necessarily in that order.
Right.
Not necessarily in that order, man. You're right.
Right. So, well,
I hope that was the bad news.
Wait a minute. You already got the good news, right?
What?
You in here with morning coffee.
That's
Well,
all
you know,
I get.
how do we go over this in the morning?
I know.
We actually say you have to promote the show. You're not really participating.
you
to
spilling
vote.
shit?
And you're spilling.
Oh no, it's stuck.
Wait a minute. I want you guys to know that I can't show you why it's stuck. Mario, because animalistic behavior is happening on
There's that DeVoe and that blue. You know, it doesn't happen that often, so when it happens, I got to use
Back
it.
here. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna get some new coffee warmers for everybody.
You guys did miss when she gave us the rear end view, but that's okay. We'll catch it next time, DeVoe.
Okay, that's right. I was dropping stuff everywhere.
No, okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. Well, you know what? We have some pieces. We're going to bring some pieces tomorrow from the people who are actually speaking out against the Libyan involvement. There's a bunch of people speaking out against it.
That's right.
So you're going to hear, and I'm not, people, well, see, it depends how much you do and what you do, because personally, I think we have to support certain kinds of movements, but how? And remember, because of the way today's politics are done, issues and the sides are dirtied up all the time. In other words, you end up, when you support certain aspects of an issue, you may find yourself with other folks that you don't agree with on other issues.
Yeah.
It's very hard today to have a sort of, well, let's play this. You have to be willing to change up your views with time, because these are evolving situations, all right? DeVoe, I know as much as you hate it, but I still got to bring up
What?
Japan.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because-
I have something to say about that.
Or you do, because the issue is about the radiation that is getting out all over the place.
Got out, not getting.
Well, yeah, it's out because that's what a
Those
meltdown
little
is.
creatures
Right.
are out.
Right. You guys see what a meltdown really reflects is that when for whatever reasons you're unable to control the temperatures of the core, the central part of the reactor, it overheats. They were quoting temperatures like 2,200 degrees. And then it melts through the floor,
That's right.
through the walls. And the China syndrome actually referred to a guy who jokingly said, what if it melts through the earth and comes out the other side of the earth in China? Even though, I read, the other side of the earth is actually the Indian Ocean, not really China.
Depending
You want
on
to
where
impress
you're
your
standing.
friends. Yeah, you got to impress. So anyway, but the issue is, it is a meltdown.
And
It is a meltdown. There's stuff being released.
And you know
It's
what else?
in the water. It's in the ground. And you can't come back there anytime soon. Remember, now, this is a big area. You cannot come back there and live
Right.
anytime soon. Now, here's the thing, too. Guess what, DeVoe? the workers. They trying to bring in all new workers. That's the new thing. All of the workers have been received so much radiation that they're trying to bring all new workers in.
Right, they're sick. And now they're saying remember the bomb we dropped over there?
Oh, yeah. Well, the only time that anybody's used a nuclear weapon against a civilian population, where we dropped 2 bombs, not even over military targets. Vic and I were talking about that. We dropped 2 bombs over civilian targets.
That's
yes.
Right. And they're talking about that could be reactivated right now because it's melting into the ground.
Very good reporting. Oh, I got
Girl,
to
you've
give
been reading.
I've been watching my CNN.
You know what? You have graduated.
Yeah, you have.
I have.
You know what?
I don't know if I want to graduate into this school, though. I mean, this stuff is really very shaky.
I have to look.
I mean, I feel like. Well, I want to say this: you guys should start drinking your miso soup.
Who?
The miso soup. That's good for radiation. It's real simple.
The world turned upside down in just a few moments.
Okay.
Then nothing was where it used to be. That's how survivors describe the earthquake and the ensuing tsunami that hit northeastern Japan 2 weeks ago. Large areas in at least 3 prefectures suddenly in ruins.
Kamaishi was known to have one of the deepest breakwaters in the world, but that was little help when the tsunami came. Now 60% of this city has been turned into debris.
And all of it has to be cleared before rebuilding can begin. Local governments are using all the resources they can. The police, the fire brigade, private contractors, and volunteers. Even the military with its better equipment is helping out. They all know there are likely to still be bodies underneath. Efforts are coordinated in this disaster center that has been working 24 hours a day. The task at hand is immense, and no one can estimate how long it's going to take.
We take the debris to any area where we find space, keep it there temporarily, and ultimately we will categorize the waste. That which can be burnt will be burnt, and those which can be buried will be buried, according to the rules.
That means separating materials, the toxic from the recyclable, to those ready for disposal. Care is also being given to salvaging personal valuables. Now living in an evacuation center, the Sasaki family have returned to see if there's anything they can take before what's left of their home is demolished. At least they escape with their lives.
I still can't accept the reality. I thought it was a lie. I thought it was a nightmare.
A nightmare shared by hundreds of thousands, all now trying to find the strength to sift through their broken lives and find something to hold on to, so they might be able to turn their world right side up again.
Wow. So what we're talking about, really bad situation, as you guys can see. As it turns out, I told you, they got to get a whole new group of workers to come in and work on the reactor. You've had a meltdown, and actually multiple meltdowns. You really can't get back to using this area. Now they've got radioactive water that they found as they're trying to work in different parts, that the water has, depending on who you believe, 10,000 to 10 million times the radiation. Right. When they pump that water out, they can't just pump it out on the ground. Exactly. They have to actually pump that water into containers.
That's right.
And seal it. Remember, if you remember a Sting song, We Work the Black Seam. We Work the Black Seam. It's all about how you spend, years and years, hundreds of years, trying to get rid of that radioactive waste in a big hole.
And it's all over the planet.
They're going to have to take that and ship that somewhere.
You know what the real issue is here is that it would be different if you had one reactor that you are focusing on. But when you have 3 or 4, how long? And you have to think about how long before you get to what they call the acceptable level of operation, because these reactors are gone.
Yes,
they're done.
That's
this
right.
is not about getting them back to working condition.
No. I am telling you guys, drink your miso soup. Look online. There's a lot of organic ways that you can find out to take different herbs and vitamins.
Just watch out where they grow them herbs.
Because
there's some radioactive herbs in your shit.
If your body is well, you know what I mean, and your immune system is up, you won't have any problems in 7 to 10 years, which is when they're going to start seeing the reaction of what this stuff does.
Well, it all depends how much you get. We know that, but it brings to light the idea of contaminants in the world, because it's really felt that, you know, you hear things discussed and they say things like 90% of cancer is environmental.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but it's not even these kind of things. It's the regular things that are being disposed of in the ground, the toxins in your water that seek. We talked about the ash, some kind of an ash product that was seeping into the water back east.
Wow.
A couple weeks. So there's a bunch of things like that we have to be aware of. Now, at least of all, I can tell you this. We mentioned that our radiation monitoring stations, that we had some that were not working. That's the first thing we mentioned. We learned that online. But some of the ones that were working were showing radiation in, you know, places like Las Vegas. And also they had some very low concentrations show up in the rainwater sample in Boston.
What about New York?
So, well, it's going to be everywhere because it gets into, like, the particles get into the jet stream, the air, and they circulate around the globe. So some of this, but, you know, that iodine ain't going to help you.
Well, I think the real question is how do you feel about your nuclear operational systems within the U.S.?
Exactly.
How confident are you guys about what is happening to give you what they call the maintenance? Because you can't deal with what they call human nature disasters. They have their own mindset. Mm-hmm. You know, that's so. How do you feel about that, you guys? I mean, do you feel that you're very secure being here, that you're next to water on a coastline that have nuclear reacting plants up and down the coast?
Well, they went out and asked some folks, and they was even some of the folks who live in 3 Mile Island.
Right.
And they said, well, every now and then an alarm goes off.
Oh.
But you see what happens when you realize that what actually happens if people do die. You learn about it years later. They have a special ceremony.
Yes, they do.
They build you a big statue to commemorate, but meanwhile, your ass is still dead.
Right.
You know, you get a nice statue.
It is.
So,
yeah.
But this is how I also feel. I feel that Japan was like, it should have been a warning for us on this side of the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because this is how we're living. They're living how we're living. Okay? What happened to them can happen to us.
That's right.
So, again, Mario, like you said, take control. Be in control. If nothing else, get the word out so people can know. So they have the right to fight against it, to stand up together as one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Should we have an alarm system here when all of a sudden a disaster happens, and when that alarm, it gives you a countdown that says if it's an earthquake or if it's volcano or whatever, what's the one that's the worst that gives you the least amount of time?
And remember, you have to decide how much to spend on this. Now, this is where the pragmatic thoughts come in.
Oh, here we go.
How good is it to give you warnings to something that's going to kill you anyway?
Come on, man.
Well, what good is in other words, if it's a huge earthquake, a super huge one, you ain't got time to load up and jump in the car and drive nowhere. So you either going to make it or you not.
Well,
so,
at least you could get up, put your tennis shoes on, grab a backpack, and be ready to start dodging.
Okay. Because
what if we have some sort of
she said dodging.
Because the earthquake, you get like minutes or half a minute.
Yeah, you don't get much.
You don't get much.
The others are a little
But the
more,
tsunami and stuff, you get
like
you get
15.
more time. Because they had supposedly you had like 20 minutes or something.
Yes, right, exactly.
But that's still what Vic and I said. By the time hey baby, come on, Stella, it's the water gonna come. Girl, what do you mean if I've been drinking?
Right.
Come, I'm watching the TV. Tsunami coming. Get your ass over here. We gotta get in the car. Or I have not been drinking.
Right.
You know, you would have like 10 minutes argue with your old lady just to get her ass in the car.
No.
And then once you get in the car, well, where we going, Tyrone?
Don't blame it on the
Where
women.
we going now that we in the car?
Right.
You want to get in the car so bad. Where we going, Mr. Know-It-All? Meanwhile, you be ready to put her out into the tsunami.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
That is wrong, Mario.
And